I might want to discuss the dangers of taking 10000 IS of nutrient D3. Seems like a lot of 10,000, but is it really that? Just to be clear, use in a very brief manner. Represent global units. Alright. So 10000 worldwide units of vitamin D is identical to not a single 1 milligram, not so much as a portion of a milligram. It's really 1/4 of 1 milligram, or 0.25, which is 250 micrograms. Alright, that is 10000 worldwide units of nutrient D3. So is there a gamble of taking that much? I think there's a greater gamble of not taking that much. Let me make sense of. I, as of late, found some data that, in a real sense, blew me away, and I believe blowing you is going away as well. But first, allow me to give you a brief foundation of our mission, discussing the extraordinary larger part of us are lacking in vitamin D. Now, I presume the clashing data is simply the rods of vitamin D is anywhere from 600 to 800 worldwide units. Okay. And presently, we're discussing taking 10,000. It seems like a tremendous hole, yet what you need to acknowledge is that 600 to 800 IS depends on old exploration. Connecting with forestalling osteoporosis, bone misfortune, it's not refreshed, and related with all the new data connected with the advantage of vitamin D for your safe framework. What's considerably more wild is that vitamin D isn't exactly even a nutrient. It's a chemical, and it acts basically the same as cortisol as a mitigating, however, without the secondary effects. Each cell in your body has receptors for vitamin D. Vitamin D's functions are extensive. Huge. However, I maintain that this video should concentrate essentially on why you really want, as an upkeep portion, 10000 IS. It truly has to do with the obstructions of retention. You have a part of things that are halting nutrient D from going into your body. Right. You enjoy the sun like nobody else does. Enough sun or sun openness to their skin. They don't go outside so much. And if they're going outside with the shirt on and simply being shown their faces, you won't draw near to the quantity you require. In addition to beyond difficult to get sufficient nutrient D from the food sources that we eat, regardless of whether you eat greasy fish and cod liver oil and egg yolks, which are higher in nutrient D3, you're as yet not going to come to the levels that you want. Then you have overweight individuals have more fat right underneath your skin. The harder it is for the sun to infiltrate, to make the vitamin D important. Then we have metabolic disorder. Alright, assuming you have diabetes or you have insulin opposition, vitamin D doesn't go in that. Well, the more seasoned you are, the skin becomes thicker, and it's harder to get your vitamin D the greater shade you have. In different words, the hazier your skin, the less vitamin D ingestion you're going to have. And furthermore, the more issue you have with the gallbladder or the liver. Suppose you have a greasy liver, the diminished vitamin D absorption going to have on the grounds that you really want bile to assist you with retaining vitamin D from the food. Difficult to get sufficient nutrient D from the food sources that we eat, regardless of whether you eat greasy fish and cod liver oil and egg yolks, which are higher in nutrient D3, you're as yet not going to come to the levels that you want. Then you have overweight individuals have more fat right underneath your skin. The harder it is for the sun to infiltrate, to make the vitamin D important. Then we have metabolic disorder. Alright, assuming you have diabetes or you have insulin opposition, vitamin D doesn't go in that. Well, the more seasoned you are, the skin becomes thicker, and it's harder to get your vitamin D the greater shade you have. In different words, the hazier your skin, the less vitamin D ingestion you're going to have. And furthermore, the more issue you have with the gallbladder or the liver. Suppose you have a greasy liver, the diminished vitamin D absorption going to have on the grounds that you really want bile to assist you with retaining vitamin D from the food. as well as from an enhancement in light of the fact that it's a fat-dissolvable nutrient, and the more, the less kidney problems you have. Vitamin D you will have also. So the manner in which it works is you have these antecedent or latent vitamin D mixtures that must be changed over completely to the dynamic type of nutrient D, and they go through different advances. Yet there's two essential stages, one through the liver and one through the kidney, to at last get this dynamic type of nutrient D3. It then, at that point, must be caught up in your receptors, and those receptors are called vitamin D receptors. And if you have a disease, such as a viral infection, these viruses can sabotage your body by downsizing the receptors and keeping you from retaining nutrient D3. Therefore, if you're immune, that's another obstacle. Compromised, or you have a safe framework problem with your vitamin D levels, going to require, must be a parcel more, to infiltrate that obstruction that the virus has purposefully designed for you. And when they take your blood for vitamin D, they're not trying the dynamic type of vitamin D, they're trying the inert structure. And the justification for what reason is since, supposing that they tried the dynamic structure, there's a ton of issues with that. Number one, being that it has a very short half-life, as I believe it to be, 4 to 6 hours contrasted with 2 to 3 weeks for the inert vitamin D3. In addition to its active form, nutrient D3 is multiple times not exactly the dormant, so obviously I have a great deal of idle vitamin D staying there, ready to be changed over. And furthermore, when you're lacking in the idle adaptation of nutrient D3, your body will then redress and make a greater quantity of active vitamin D3. So if you tried the dynamic nutrient D3 and it appears typical, it doesn't actually give you have a lot of information because of this. The latent structure is tried yet. This next thing will blow you away. Okay, so this has to do with your genes. I've been as of late engaged with a ton of research in hereditary qualities, taking a gander at, what's called polymorphisms, which are modifications in specific qualities that make you more vulnerable to having issues with specific ailments. Yet there's 3 polymorphisms that are regularly tried as the need might arise. Discuss on the grounds that in the last, I would say a while, tried their DNA. They're chiefly loved ones, individuals, and I needed to simply get experience in this theme, and testing genuine individuals is a generally excellent method for doing that. And look at this, is simply connected with vitamin D. Out of the 21 individuals that I tried, 100 of them had at least one issue with vitamin D absorption, or at least they did. At least one hereditary issue with their vitamin D, another obstacle that I don't believe is truly recognized, or indeed even known. It very well may be the following 21 individuals I test. Vitamin D is not a problem for me. But 21 out of this small sample were of 20, when individuals had an issue relating the first gene's vitamin D genes. It was known as the CYP2R1, and out of the multitude of 21 individuals tried, 90 of them definitely disapproved of this quality. 38 of that group had a significant issue with that polymorphism or change, and this gene is the first of 2 steps in the transformation from the idle to the active, and found in the liver, resulting in, putting it another way, if you struggle with this quality, you will have an issue in changing the latent structure over completely to the dynamic structure. Currently, we should discuss the other 2 qualities. These other 2 qualities were associated with transportation, like restricting to a protein and moving this vitamin D all through your circulation and among the 21. Additionally, the initial transporter gene was such as 61% of the people who had an issue with that one, and afterward with that second carrier, there was like 76 of individuals that disliked that quality, so many individuals did and have an issue just with one quality. It was all 3 genes. Therefore, if this genetic change on top of everything else obstructions, now we can see 10,000 IS won't be harmful by any stretch of the imagination. As a matter of fact, it will be important to infiltrate a portion of these large obstructions that individuals are facing. That being said, how much vitamin D does result in toxicity? That is still up for debate, but it is based on all the examination that I checked it out. Would take a huge number of global units of vitamin D for months before it made a harmful impact. Furthermore, that harmful impact is fundamentally hypercalcemia, and the gamble of that issue is essentially kidney stones. So, as a preparatory step in the event that you're drinking, over 2 liters of liquid daily, that diminishes your gamble. Huge season of getting a kidney stone on the grounds that you will keep the pee weakened. And afterward, what's more, assuming you take some of the supporting supplements that permits absorption of vitamin D, and the purpose of it and other factors safeguard you against hypercalcemia like K2, vitamin magnesium, B6, zinc, then that puts you indeed even in a more secure reach. And one final point about getting your blood tried with vitamin D. To date, there's still no agreement from the whole clinical local area on what those ideals ought to be. But the majority of doctors is anywhere from 150 to 200 nanograms milliliter. However, again, when they do, they are looking at the blood test idle vitamin D. They're not looking at the dynamic vitamin D, and they're moreover not paying attention to what occurs in the absorption of vitamin D into your cells, which we are not examining at that level. Additionally, you have a genetic issue in the vitamin D receptor, or you have a contamination or some infection that is minimizing that vitamin D receptor, or even you have a disease of the immune system that possesses this reduced vitamin D receptor. You could require a whole lot more elevated levels of nutrient D3 than 10000 IS. Now,